Welcome to the show, the POMcast. I'm Stephen Willis. Just to get this out of the way at the beginning, you can follow us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis. You can follow us at Old Positively. You can subscribe at YouTube. You can subscribe at Twitch. You can join the Facebook group. Basically, what we're trying to do is we want to be wherever you already are. And so we're simulcasting basically everywhere we can because we want our reach to reach where you are. We don't want you to go necessarily to a certain spot, but if you are on YouTube already, we're on YouTube as well. If you are on Facebook already, we're on Facebook as well. If you're on Twitter already, we're on Twitter as well. So we hit all these platforms and deliver content basically straight to you. We don't care if you come to us. We're never going to ask you for any money. Basically, we're in a unique position to do this. So this is a kind of a present to Ole Miss fans at the moment. But what we're doing, if you look at our YouTube page, the Around the SEC shorts are starting to appear. And eventually the Around the SEC. We're adding a second show to what we're doing. And we're going to put that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, which we already are, Google Podcast. We're already there. And basically we can just however you want to consume information, we're there. Now, we're upgrading and we're slowly building. Like we told you, we're slowly building. But eventually in 7-8 months, before next football season, it's going to be all video. It's going to have graphics of a depth chart. It's going to have basically the information that you want to receive will be right there. It'll be completely free. It'll be kind of probably a load off your back, and because you don't have to deal with all the mess and people trying to extort you for money and basically putting information behind the paywall. I understand why they have to do that because they want to make money, or money is the central figure, but we'll never do that. I have a theory that I have 20 years of journalism experience, and every journalism story is biased in at least one of three things, and that is money, ambition, or influence. One of those three things is involved in every story. Whenever they cover a story, they're going to cover it based on one of those three factors. So you're not really going to get the information that you need. Nobody's doing a who, what, when, why, how story anymore. They're not doing that. They're doing a story based on how much money they can make by the wording in that story. They're doing that story on, will this story get me to the next level? They're doing this story on who will listen to it and affect the change that I want to see. Which, that's very dangerous. But that's what we're dealing with. And that's fine. It's the way it is. But people need to understand that. They need to... the media is obviously going through a little situation right now. And it's all because of the cut down of layers between money and the assignments desk, and basically money influencing content. That's why we're in the position we're in. So if you basically hear a journalist talking about money openly, take him seriously, because everything he's doing is about money. Now, sometimes the truth and those three things can align on the same story. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that every story is biased by one of those things. And they're infinitely worse than if you consider yourself a fan. And I consider myself an Ole Miss fan. I'm no doubt I'm coming at it from that perspective. I will say we. I've earned the right to say we. I went to college there. I lettered there. I had an office in the Manning Center. I earned the right to say we. I can. I also have my broadcast journalism degree from there and my broadcast journalism degree from the Defense Information School. So, that's a little soapbox early in the morning. Sorry to just jump down that thread, but it's one thing that people need to understand. And you could see that they were influenced. You started seeing people not really knowing the difference between a report and a column. And then the media just ran with it. And it became, you could do opinion as fact. It became socially acceptable. And when that happened, it was basically all over. They've lost most credibility. And if you try to say somebody is biased, you're just projecting on your bias. It's plain and simple the way it is. Anyway, today is 9/11, the 19th anniversary. I thought I'd share with you guys a little bit. It kind of hit me a little hard. As you know, I was in the military from 99 to 2004 and was stationed in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. But on 9/11, I was visiting my wife. We weren't actually living together the first 2 years of our marriage. But she was at Bolling Air Force Base in Washington, D.C. on 9/11, and I was basically camped out in her barracks room because it's an Air Force base. I think they called it a dormitory. We did not have a butler, though, so I was pretty upset by that. But she was only in E3, so that's the way that works. But on the morning of 9/11, she worked at Navy Marine Corps News. And every morning you would go do a live shot or do something at the Pentagon. Because, you want the visual. You can't get much more important, and that's a very impressive looking building. That means probably third only to the Capitol and the White House. So, but that day, somebody needed to take off about 4 days later, or 3 days later or something. And they volunteered to take the Navy Marine Corps news shoot. Now, don't get me wrong. He's okay, as far as I know. But he was there when the plane went into the Pentagon. And that could have been my wife. That could have been Becky. And it's something that I think about from time to time, that it could have been her. Just feet away, just scarring for the rest of your days. Something so evil. Something so wrong. And she was there. But that trade happened, and that did mess him up a little bit. As it would, it should. But it just kind of, on 9/11, every 9/11, this hits home for me. I saw that plane go down, descend, and then it went out of sight because the Pentagon was right across the river from where I was. After the first building got hit on Bolling Air Force Base, within 30 minutes to an hour, pillboxes were set up on base. People that you wouldn't trust to loan $5 to was now basically setting up a war zone on that base. If anybody tried to come in, they were going to get shot. There's jets flying overhead, breaking the sound barrier, which they're not allowed to do over U.S. cities. It's so many things about that day. And I'm not even counting the news coverage, but so many things about that day was bizarre. Stuff that I hope I will never see again. It was our generation's Pearl Harbor. It absolutely was. It was shocking. People don't understand the impact that events like that have. And how you always remember where you were. And it just freezes basically a save point in your mind that you can always go back to. Like that one, I can always go back to that. I can always go back to 1986 in the Challenger in 4th grade, watching that on TV without fail. But I've probably used up 10 minutes of time talking about that. I appreciate you letting me ramble. But what I want to talk to you about today is basically the wide receiver core, an idea that I had. So we have gone over in boot camp the offense, what the offense looks like, and it is highly reliant on jet sweeps. That's a big part of this offense. So the best receiver on this team is Elijah Moore. Do you want to waste him going downfield by him being the jet sweep guy? Or, and this is what I was thinking, would you consider moving him outside to be one of the dudes? Then you have Elijah Moore and Jonathan Mingo, and then the jet sweep guys, Dennis Jackson. He is constantly on the speed freaks list that gets sent out every day. Or, more spitballing, is that the position that John Rice Plumlee is going to play if he changes positions? Something to think about. But it all starts with Elijah Moore moving outside. Now, here's the problem with that. If you move outside, you are basically big lumbering blocker. It's kind of like a Jonathan Mingo on both sides. So you can line up Jonathan Mingo and Miles Battle on both sides, and they block. They're out there to be Evan Ingram. They're out there to make plays. They're versatile, but they are not the focal point of the offense. The focal point of this offense will be the tight end and that slot receiver in the passing game. And then the running backs, of course. But the outside guys, if they get open and they run routes, they do whatever they need to do, they can make it to the next level. They can provide worth, because at the end of the day, if they run the ball, which, like I said, this is a run-first offense. He has been run first at every stop he's been at because he actually believes in it. Since Reggie Bush and Lindell White, you basically need to understand that he cut his coaching teeth on those USC teams, and they were led by a running game, a dominant running game. People talk about Mount Leonard. He won the Heisman. Great. But what made that team go was Reggie Bush and Lindell White. What made FAU go was Devin Singletary, those guys at running back. What made Tennessee go? Monterio Hardesty at running back. What made Alabama go? Derrick Henry at running back. TJ Yeldon at running back. There's kind of a pattern here. It's kind of a pattern developing. But people need to understand that. People, for some reason, view Lane Kiffin as pass happy. I don't understand that. I don't really know where it comes from. Maybe it's from the gaudy numbers that Amari Cooper put up at Alabama, where he caught a bunch of hitches. It's basically what he did at Alabama was double moves and hitches. That's an outside receiver in this offense, by the way. Double moves and hitches. The middle of the field is where they're going to do a lot of their damage, but outside the numbers is where they're going to double move and score touchdowns. They're going to lull you to sleep. So it's just something I was thinking of. Whenever we come back from the break, we're going to break down Auburn, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. All right, we're back. We are going to break down Auburn, and basically that will end the basic murderer's road of the schedule, in my opinion, where you deal with Florida week 1, Alabama week 3, and Auburn week 5. Once we get past that, we're in Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and LSU. There's games that could be winnable. All 5 of them. I wouldn't count us out in any of them. I'm not saying we're going to win all of them, but you can't really just put an L and pin by those games. Not at this point. Not with what's going on. Now, maybe you can do it to Alabama. You can write that one in pin. We lost to Auburn by a touchdown last year. So you can't really put that in pen. That was with a bunch of freshmen. And we don't know about Florida. That week 1 game, you might be able to put that one in pen. Like I said, our prediction at that point was, I think Florida by a touchdown. So right now we have them at 2-2 with wins over Kentucky and Arkansas. Kentucky is not a home run by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think that they have that deep threat that is needed that'll open up space for those running backs and that quarterback. They don't have my trust at this point. So if they have that off the table, 1-3 is very possible. We can lose that game. But until they prove to me that player exists, it's 2-2 at this point. So we're dealing with the Auburn Tigers, and Auburn is probably second on the upset list behind LSU that I have. I think LSU is the most likely upset from where it sits on the schedule to what's going on to they're going through this whole situation where the last person there cut out the lights. But next would be Auburn. And my question with Auburn is, how much is Chad Morris going to be involved in this offense? Because as we saw last night with Miami and UAB, Rhett Lashley, that was the Nick Marshall offense from Auburn. It was fun to watch. It was quick. It was everything you can imagine. It was there. It was vintage Gus. Rhett Lashley did a good job. It was nice to see it. But then it made you think. They have that, and then they changed the way they recruit at the quarterback position. And getting pocket passers has made their offense worse. This year, to the point where even though Gus, with his offense, has been to 2 national championship games at Auburn during Alabama's run of dominance. Let's not forget that. But he's been to 2 national championship games, and he changed his style of recruiting the quarterback position, and now he's changing his offense to fit that quarterback. I don't know. They had something that was working. They had something that filled their niche. I mean, as good of a team as Ole Miss had in 2014, as you remember, they were ranked in the playoff discussion before Laquan Treadwell broke his leg. That team was best in the country in points per game at Ole Miss. They could not stop Nick Marshall and Auburn. So why go away from that? Why change what you do? Why change who you are? I just don't understand. Last year, a bunch of freshmen went to Auburn and lost by a touchdown and had the ball when the clock ran out. If there was a minute left on that clock, Ole Miss would have probably won that game. I mean, that happened. That's a real thing. That's one of the few situations last year where they just ran out of time. They coincidentally, at that last drive, opened up the offense and went straight down the field, but that's beside the point. My question with Auburn is, why did you change the type of personnel needed to run your offense? Now, I like Bo Nix. I don't like him as much as JRP, but I like Bo Nix. It looks like they have 6 players back on offense. It looks like they returned their entire skill grouping, where Anthony Schwartz, Eli Stove, Seth Williams, all those guys, and DJ Williams at running back. Now, I say everything that I said before, so I can say this. DJ Williams is probably one of the best running backs Gus Malzahn has had at Auburn. It's true. But he has changed his offense so much that DJ Williams he loses his effectiveness. 5 years ago at Auburn with DJ Williams, they'd have won the national championship. He's that good. I really like DJ Williams. I just don't like him with Bo Nix. Joey Gatewood, who's at Kentucky, kind of fits that Nick Marshall role better. But he decided he was going to be a passing quarterback and seem like his offense can adjust to his personnel. When in reality, you recruit your offense based on what you do. Personnel is based on what you do. The worst decision in college football history was Troy Aikman committing to Oklahoma to run the wishbone. There's bar none. Troy Aikman committing to Oklahoma to run the wishbone, like Jamel Holloway, was the worst decision ever made in college football. Now, he transferred to UCLA and the rest is history, but it goes to show what fit means and what system means. Every coach has a system. Every quarterback is a system quarterback. Just because you aren't very good at one place does not mean you're not going to be very good at every place. Ty Keys at Tulane is a fantastic fit. Ty Keys at Ole Miss would be a great fit too. Ty Keys at Mississippi State would not be a great fit. That's like you get Jamie Newman at Georgia and you bring in coaches to run a system similar to what Joe Burrow and them did at LSU. Their idea is changing and amping up the offense. JT Daniels becomes the obvious choice for that position. But you had Jamie Newman. My theory, it's just my theory, is that became readily apparent after the first scrimmage, and that's the reason Jamie Newman opted out. Just because your draft stock is going to go way down if you lose the job. He took the opportunity, acted early, and took all the hype he got for the last 6 months and just put it in the next year's draft. Now, that said, I probably would not draft him in the first 3 rounds. That's just my opinion. So, looking at that, and looking at defense where they have, it looks like 5 people coming back. And Derek Hall from Mississippi is penciled in as starting, and they lose their whole secondary. So, and they also have somebody going by Big Cat Bryant, which I'm assuming that's Martavius, but I don't like nicknames going in there unless he officially changed his name. I'm not a big Chad Ochocinco guy, even though once he legally did it, it's fine. But you know, you can't just say what you are, in my opinion. Well, my theory on this one is Game 5, you'll see the Lane Kiffin experiments start to come together. The quarterback situation should be washed out, and the defense will be much better just because of the reps they get between now and then. That's the reason I have them at second on the upset scale. I'm going to pick Auburn in this game by a field goal. And it's kind of a safety pick, hedging my bet, you know. Let's make sure. But I've got Ole Miss through 5 games at 2-3. And next week, when we get a little bit easier into the setup of the season, the South Carolina, the Vandy, the Mississippi State, the Texas A&M, the LSU. I mean, there's a legit chance for 4-1 in the back 5. That would put them at, let's see, in mine, that would put them at 6-4, I think. But that means 5-5 is on the table. So, I want to thank everybody for listening today. I had a blast. Please follow us at The Stephen Willis, at Old Positively. Subscribe on Facebook or YouTube. Join our Facebook group. Follow on Twitch. All those places. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. And basically anywhere you are, we're going to be there too. On our YouTube channel, we are putting in around the SEC shorts right now. Get little things like the MSU offense, the Kentucky offense, I recount my recovery from brain surgery on there. This is called Around the SEC Shorts. It's on our YouTube channel. So it's just a little bit of extra content provided if you want it. It doesn't cost you a thing. All that we're asking for is your time. And, you can consume it at your leisure. But this thing is really growing, and the numbers this week have completely blown me away. And next week I will continue to do it, and we'll continue to build this thing. But this is a process. We are on step 1 of this process of our goal of providing free information to all people that want to follow Ole Miss sports. That nobody extorts you for money over information. You should be informed. You should be a 12-year-old on social media and want to follow Ole Miss, but, can't afford that much money. There's no reason that anybody should be priced out of this. So we are going to do that, and we're going to hold off as long as we can selling advertising until we build our product out. But I will never charge you for money. I will never ask for money for you or from you. And we can keep it that way. And I'm trying to avoid those 3 things. And those 3 biases that I told you about earlier. And one of them is money. Obviously, I that's not why I'm in it. I wouldn't be doing this if I wanted to make a lot of money off of it. Second is ambition. I'm kind of where I want to be. I'm doing this as a way to inform people because I was basically called to do it because there was a need for this position to exist. or influence. And me and my wife, we're talking about moving to Central Florida in like 6 months. So anyway, I will catch you Monday. Thank you very much, and go Rebs.